everyone, and welcome to this masterclass on AI in practice, how A&O Shearman is shaping the future of law, where we'll explore the transformative role of generative AI in the legal profession. Whether you're curious about the future of law or looking to stand out in a competitive field, today's session is your gateway to understanding how firms like A&O Shearman are leading the charge. I know that I am especially excited for this session, and I hope you are too, and that you enjoy this masterclass and find it informative. So we always start our masterclass with a learning outcome. So by the end of this masterclass, you should understand the transformative role generative AI plays in the legal profession, learn how A&O Shearman is leading the charge with AI tools like Harvey, and learn how to navigate the use of AI in your own legal journey as well. I'm going to hand over to our panelists shortly, but first I'm just going to quickly go over some key information for today's session. Please use the online question tool to post any questions that you have, and I'll be posing them to our speakers at the end. Also, this masterclass is being recorded. The recording of the session will be sent to all registrants after the session in a follow-up email, and will be available on our YouTube channel very shortly too. I also like to take a moment to inform you that applications for our legal careers conferences, Law Careers Net Live, are now open. If you'd like to meet top commercial law firms such as A&O Shearman, who is sponsoring our London conference, as well as take part in partner and trainee panels, attend interactive firm-led workshops, and more, then make sure you apply by the 30th of October. There'll be more information on the event and how to apply via the link in the follow-up email to the session, but you can also find out more on Law Careers Net's events page. Okay, so with that out of the way, I'm going to start off by asking all attendees to answer the question on the screen so that our panelists can get an idea of who is joining us today. So we got quite a big mix, with majority in postgraduate and in work, which is quite interesting. And then we also got sort of an even split between second year, third year, and law students as well. And to follow up, we've got two more polls. The first of which is how often do you use AI? Thank you for everyone for being so on it. I think that's again majority of you who have answered. Going to share these results again. So it seems majority of you have either said they use AI daily or only when you need it for something specific. And then quite a lot of you have also said that you use it a couple of times a week, but we've also got people that have said that they don't use it often at all or even never. And for our final poll, what would you say you use AI most often for? So would that be studying? Would it be daily tasks to get answers to questions you have, for law firm applications or something else? Or like some of you have already said you haven't used it yet, so you might have not used it. So majority of you have said that you use AI most often to get answers to questions you have, which is quite understandable, but it seems a lot of you have also used it for studying, daily tasks, and even law firm applications, which is great. So thank you very much for that. So with these polls out of the way, I won't hold you any longer, and I'll pass on to our panelists and Danielle. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. You're all very welcome to today's session. My name is Danielle Fulham. I'm an early careers recruitment specialist here with A&O Shearman. I've been with the firm just under 2 years. I'll be 2 years in October. My role within the team, I look after our inclusion pipelines mainly. So things like our Black Student Lawyer Programme and Step Into Law, which is our social mobility programme, and then working with inclusion partnerships such as Aspiring Solicitors or Rare Recruitment. Outside of that, I also look after our law tech and operations recruitment, which is more kind of business focused graduate program that rotates through what we refer to as our AD&S group, so our Advanced Delivery Solutions group. So a lot of our legal tech stuff, and then MIG as well, so our Market Innovations group, which is important for this session because they are our team that looks after all things AI. Today, I am going to bring you through some information about us as a firm. I thought it was important to give you some context to A&O Shearman before we launch into all things AI. We're going to briefly discuss the impact of AI, both positive and some risks attached. And then we'll move on to how we as a firm are using it on a day-to-day basis and how we are developing it as well. And then we are kindly joined by trainee Siobhan Ali, who's going to bring to life a little bit more about how our trainees are using AI, again, on a day-to-day basis, but then also how they are getting involved in terms of developing it and what we are doing in this space. I suppose, first of all, thank you for completing the polls. It gives us a good indication as to where people are at in terms of using AI on a daily basis. AI has become a little bit of a buzzword in terms of whether that's for application season or in general within kind of news cycles and things like that. And I think for those of you who may think that you're not using AI on a daily basis, you might be surprised to know that you are. So I suppose the real difference in the last couple of years is things like things that we've been using AI in for years, so things like predictive text and that kind of thing have been around, but the development of generative AI has really launched AI, as I said, into the news cycles and into the world of work in a more effective way. And I suppose, like, for a brief, very non-scientific explanation as to what generative AI is basically, instead of just being predictions, it's creating new things. So you may have seen kind of TikTok trends or Instagram trends a couple of months ago of AI generated images of people, like their starter packs and all that kind of stuff. So that was Gen AI because it was creating something brand new. So that's a very simplistic explanation of it, but that is kind of where the development is happening at the moment, and hence it becoming at the forefront of a lot of industries, and legal being one of them. As I said before, I move on to the impact of AI within the legal space. I thought it would be good to give you a little bit of a snapshot of us as a firm to kind of just set the scene a little bit in terms of what we're doing in this space. So you may be aware that on the 1st of May in 2024, A&O and Shearman Sterling merged together to make A&O Shearman. As a UK-based firm, A&O had been looking to the US for a number of years in terms of growth areas, and it was decided that a merger was the best way to go about that to really grow our presence within the United States. We did have a presence in the States beforehand, but not as big as we do now. And I think one thing that we're particularly proud of since the merger is the spread of our global footprint. So not only do we have more offices in the United States, but we also have more lawyers. So we've got 30% of lawyers in the US, 30% in the UK, and 40% across the rest of the world. Since the merger, we've become the third largest law firm in terms of revenue, combining 250 years worth of experience between the two firms, and have approximately 750 equity partners firm-wide. We have 48 offices in 29 different countries as well. I suppose if I was a trainee thinking, or a potential trainee thinking about what does this mean for me, I suppose it is that real global and international reach. So one thing that really struck me when I joined the firm back 2 years ago was that anytime I spoke to a trainee, they really emphasized the fact that the majority of the deals and cases that they were working on were multi-jurisdictional and not just focused within the UK. So if you are someone who's attracted to that global international work, this really is the firm for you. I think this slide is always a good visual to just show you exactly where we are in the world. And again, sitting as a potential applicant, what does that mean for you? I suppose the international secondments are a large part of it, and a big reason why applicants are motivated to apply for us. So every trainee in their fourth seat does a secondment, and about 80% of trainees go abroad for them. There is people who stay in London, so whether that's to focus on client work and work on a client's comment, or go in-house. So there's some internal secondments with our social impact team, and then also with Fuse as well. So it is really giving you that opportunity to expand on your international work. The structure of the firm, again, I thought this was just interesting to set the scene a little bit in terms of the use of AI. So since the merger, some of our practice areas have had a little bit of a rebrand and gone through a name change, but they are still focused within the same areas. So corporate, finance, disputes, and energy. As a firm, A&O Shearman would be mainly focused in finance, which you can see there from the length of kind of split off practice areas that we have within our finance groups. For trainees, I think it's important to note that as we are kind of a finance firm is like our core, our bread and butter is how we often refer to it, is if you are a trainee, you're like traditionally you would go through at least 2 finance seats. So it's just something to keep in mind. So whether that's that you're particularly motivated by finance or you're interested in that area, this might be the firm for you for that reason. You can see there ENRI, so energy, national resources and infrastructure, which is generally large finance projects. So prior to the merger, they would have sat within finance and may have been known as project finance or could be known as that in other firms. Since the merger, they've split off into their own practice area, and the reason for that is that we really see it as a growth area for us as a firm. Another thing to highlight on this slide is MIG. So you can see it there under finance, just under asset finance. So as I mentioned, our markets innovation group. So that's where all or the majority of our AI work is sitting in terms of development and client work. It sits within finance because traditionally a lot of our MIG lawyers were securitization lawyers. And when we started out on the role of AI with us in a firm, those deals worked particularly well with AI. So they kind of became kind of subject matter experts within that space, and then eventually MIG was developed from there. Another key part of this slide to take note of is the Advanced Delivery Solutions Group. So as I briefly mentioned, AD&S was set up actually back around 2005 time, and at the time it came from project management and legal tech. So when partners are managing kind of really big deals, a lot of project management skills are involved because obviously there's various different parts both in-house and with your client as well. Through that, and to spare kind of partner time so that they could focus on the deal itself, managing their team and managing the deal, project management teams were set up. Again, kind of really focusing that core practice area and expertise to people who knew exactly what they were doing and how to aid the lawyers as best as possible. Through the growth of project management, we then moved into legal tech. PeerPoint sits in that as well, which is our alternative resourcing model. So if a client comes to us and say that they have a senior team member who's about to go off on leave for a year, have we got anyone for secondment? That all goes through PeerPoint. And it's grown massively over the years to include Fuse as well, which you may be aware of if you're interested in us as a firm, which is our fintech and tech incubator hub, where startups go to develop, and they hire what they refer to as cohorts each year, where there could be 25 to 28 different startups rotating through Fuse, giving them the opportunity to develop their company with A&O Shearman lawyers feeding into it every day. We also have places like legal process improvement and e-discovery sits within there as well. So that was kind of the original development of tech within A&O Shearman, and now a lot of the tech focuses that we have is based around AI. So with all of that in mind, moving on to the AI focus of the session. So as a firm, we are massively supportive of AI, and we are at the forefront of developing it both in-house and for our clients as well. And the reason that we are so invested in it and believe in growing in it is because we really see the positive impacts that AI is having on the legal industry. And some of them are listed here on the screen. So there are some key ones that I think are important for future trainees, which I'll highlight. But starting from the top, better client service, cost effectiveness, enhanced decision making, increased efficiency, enhanced accuracy, improved research capability, and competitive edge. A lot of these tie into each other. So if you're looking at competitive edge, it also makes us better within our client services, and cost effectiveness obviously comes into increased efficiency as well. So when we talk about cost effectiveness, you may be aware that majority of law firms work off billable hours models. So you might be wondering, if we're charging per hour or per minute, how does reducing time spending on tasks lead to cost effectiveness? So I think in terms of clients, bottom line, when they are submitted bids and tenders documents where we kind of tell them how great of lawyers we are and how we're going to help them with their deals, they're always going to go to the back page and see what the cost breakdown is of that. And over the last probably 8 to 10 years or so, law firms are moving to set price models. So they'll quote a set price to the client. And if we go over the hours that are set in that set price, we're at a loss for that. So the cost effectiveness comes into that set price model that makes sure that we're running those deals to the hours that we've predicted. and therefore to the cost that we've predicted as well. I think two key things that I would kind of pull out from this slide if I was a potential applicant for A&O Shearman is the enhanced decision making. So as junior lawyers, a lot of the work that you do can be quite automated or has now been automated by AI, which I'm sure Siobhan will give us kind of some more detail on later on. But with all of that in mind, so one task that could have been traditionally done by trainees a couple of years ago around e-discovery is tagging and like mass document review. So you'd get a lot of documents from a client on a case and you'd have to physically go through and check for words and tag those words so that then they could then be discovered and like feed further into the case. That's a lot of the time now done through AI and e-discovery platforms. So what you're doing now instead is all of those tasks that you would have been doing for your first or second seat, moving on to your third and fourth, then starting to develop your judgment skills and through your associate grades as well. They're now coming earlier, so to give you the opportunity to really start developing that decision making that makes a really good, strong lawyer. So it gives you that opportunity to flex that muscle a little bit earlier within your career. The other element, especially when it comes to picking firms in particular that you're going to apply to or want to train with, is that competitive edge. So as I've mentioned, A&O Shearman has been at the forefront of the development of Harvey, contract matrix, which is our own in-house built tool as well, and really giving us that opportunity to use this technology before other law firms and enhancing our competitive edge with our competitors and making us more desirable for our clients. Obviously, with all of that in mind, there are some risks associated with AI as well, and to briefly mention them. So data, privacy and security risks. So obviously cyber attacks are massively on the rise. So it's something to be aware of when using AI, particularly web-based models, because they are open, they're not directly installed into your kind of IT systems. Bias as well is another big thing. So all AI systems are kind of only as good as the data they're trained on. So if you look at the medical field in particular, so if you are training medical AI off certain countries, but then you're using that AI in a different country, there might be biases involved there. So it's something to keep at the front of your mind. Ethical and professional responsibilities and regulatory and compliance risk kind of tie into one, but that idea of, does your client know that you're using AI? If so, or if you are using AI, are you declaring that to your client? Has your client given you permission to put their information into the systems? We do have a list within the firm of clients who may not be supportive of us using AI on their client work, and that's completely fine, but it should be noted by everyone within the firm as well. And if you are using it on client work, we would still encourage people to kind of take out core information and anonymize it as much as possible. So moving on to our work in this space. So I suppose one of the first big storylines for us in terms of AI was our partnership with Harvey. So in November 2022, we became the first law firm to globally roll out generative AI. So it would have been A&O at the time, now A&O Shearman, and we were the first to move in that space. I suppose the reasons as to why we looked to Harvey, pre-2022, the senior leadership of the firm noticed that a large number of our lawyers were spending a considerable amount of time on very similar tasks, so drafting, summarising and clause comparison, just to name a few examples. When, again, looking at pricing models, headcount, all that kind of stuff, these tasks came up again and again. So they began to look at AI and started working with Harvey to try combat those. So Harvey is a web-based Gen AI model with a customizable LLM, so large language model. So again, web-based, just so everyone's aware, because I know there can be a lot of jargon in this area, but web-based basically means that we go on to Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome and log into Harvey from there. And then large language-based models means that we can customize that ourselves. So we feed in A&O Shearman precedents and data to give it the information that we're looking for. So Harvey, as I said, was the first kind of AI tool that we were using in-house. It started off very small, asking it to enhance their emails, all that kind of stuff, and then moved on to more streamlined drafting and research models as well. Since the rollout of AI, we have reclaimed around 2 to 3 hours of lawyers' times each day. So that's a lot of hours that we've claimed back that they can then focus on further client work, and then also streamlined drafting. So for years, all law firms would have had in-house styles that we run through documents and all that kind of stuff, but now it means that our drafting is more streamlined as well. So that is a brief overview of Harvey. The other tool that I wanted to focus on was Contract Matrix. So as I briefly mentioned, Contract Matrix is built in-house. So the idea of this stemmed from lawyers basically being in their offices late at night and thinking to themselves, I think someone in our Frankfurt office worked on a clause like this a couple of years ago, but they're caught in a call and I can't reach them. And we want to like pull basically all our precedents together that all lawyers around the globe within our offices have access to it at the exact same time. And from that, we built Contract Matrix, which I'm actually going to show a brief video that will give a little bit more detail as to what that means.
Imagine you're an in-house lawyer who needs to review a loan agreement. Contract Matrix is going to enable you to use AI to speed up that review.
With Contract Matrix, you get efficiency gains, up to 30% in review and drafting of contracts. That's a lot of time that you can get back in your day.
We are using a Contract Matrix internally across loads of different contract types in lots of different languages.
It has been developed in collaboration with Harvey and Microsoft. There are 3 main functions of Contract Matrix. The first is open-ended questions. You ask a question of the provisions you're drafting or reviewing.
So there's a ribbon at the top of the page, and you can click on it to open up Contract Matrix directly in Word. We're going to choose a set of provision, and we're going to apply AI to it. Harvey is being channeled over that particular loan set of provision and is responding against it. Now I'm showing you a different mode. This is a draft mode.
And that's the really exciting part of it, because we're now looking at drafting using GPT.
I want to redraft the provision. I don't want to talk about it. I want to change it. So you can see the proposed amendments, and I can now compare them and accept or reject as I see fit. The AI has recut that provision, but the lawyer in the loop can make the final decision as to which changes to accept or reject.
And then third, and probably the most powerful, is the bench technology. This is where you are collecting and really utilizing your precedents.
We want to ground the in-house lawyer in libraries of precedents, or benches, as we call them. So the lawyer is going to choose the libraries or benches of precedents to apply the AI to. AI is now dipping into that library of precedents and transactions, and it's finding the most similar provision to the set of provision I'm reviewing, and it's ranking them in order of similarity. So the lawyer can now choose which of the provisions to compare against the set of provision I'm reviewing, and again, can accept or reject changes. So now the in-house lawyer is being channeled over that library of precedents and templates to make sure that quality of your organization is being adhered to. Turning now to the concept search. So we can search the library for an idea, and we're searching the library of precedents. So we've rolled this out and we're giving it to clients on the understanding it is in beta.
It's such an exciting time. Everybody's using GPT technology. We've got more than 1,000 lawyers around the globe using Contract Matrix.
We are very excited to work with you to roll out AI into your legal function. Please reach out to your usual A&O contact to continue the conversation.
So that was just a brief overview of contract matrix, because I know that one in particular might seem a little bit harder to grasp if you haven't been in a firm and used that precedent model in the past. I'm going to hand over to Siobhan now to maybe give us a little bit of info around kind of how the trainee cohort are using AI on a daily basis and how they're feeding into the development of it within A&O as well. Siobhan, would you like to join and introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, thank you, Danielle. Hi, everyone. I'm Siobhan Ali. As Danielle said, I am now going into my third seat at A&O Shearman. So my first seat was in asset finance, which deals with financing of aviation assets mainly, so planes, but I also did some work with ships and oil rigs. And I am currently sitting in international debt capital markets. So we deal mainly with vanilla bonds, working with a range of issuers and banks to issue green bonds, sustainability linked bonds, hybrid bonds to help companies raise financing. I'm then going into debt finance in the next few weeks, and we'll be working on loans once again, but with a variety of different assets, not just aviation. So I thought that I would talk to you a little bit more about the AI tools that I use on a regular basis and what they can be useful for, because one of the challenges that I found with AI is really understanding its potential and how it can fit into your daily life. So we've talked a little bit about Harvey. I do use Harvey, and I also use Copilot. What these have been really particularly helpful for is administrative tasks like creating to-do lists, in meetings, taking notes of the meetings, or even taking transcripts, which I can then edit into notes. One of the things that I found really helpful is if there is a document that I've drafted and I need to summarize it really briefly to a client, I can plug that document in and Harvey will come up with a summary. Another thing that I found helpful was using Harvey for definitions of legal concepts and terms. So where Harvey differs from maybe tools that you use like ChatGPT is that it is more legally focused and specific. So sometimes as a trainee, when you feel a bit silly to ask what something means, or you're not sure whether you've got it right, it's a good idea to go through Harvey first and just double check your understanding. So those are just a few examples where you can integrate AI in your daily life. And as you guys were saying, you use it with daily tasks, so you can sort of adapt those in the work environment as well. But there are a couple things that I think are important to flag. One is related to personal or client data, whether it's your information or your colleague's information or a client's information. It's really important to respect confidentiality. We do have some clients who don't want their information to be used with AI tools, and so you absolutely cannot put their information in an AI tool. But generally, I think it's good practice to anonymize any information that you are putting in. The other thing is, I think sometimes when we use Google, for example, and send a question in, we can be quite brief. I think with AI, you can go into sort of designing prompts, and you will get training on that as well, which I'll go into in a little bit. But you do need to sort of prompt it in the correct way. So, for example, I will say to Harvey, you are a trainee in this department and you've been tasked with this, but giving it as much information as possible is important. I think it's really important to flag as well that you still do need to review the output. It can be a good opportunity actually to double check whether what you put into Harvey was correct or explained correctly, but sometimes it does come out with things that aren't exactly what you need. So you do still need that critical element of reading everything that Harvey has produced and not just sending it off to a supervisor or a client. And then I really want to emphasize that AI tools cannot really outdo the legal experience or expertise that an associate or a senior can do, which I think is reassuring, because I know we get lots of questions about, will AI take over jobs? And I think that once you start using it, you can really understand that like the legal analysis and the critical thinking, it cannot replicate. So it's important to still clarify things with your seniors. And what's exciting is that it pushes you to be better, because it takes away a lot of the administrative tasks and the the things that are quite time intensive but not really critical, it allows you to free up time to really push yourself and be more analytical with the legal concepts. So, for example, I sent a legal opinion through to Harvey and asked it to explain the points that provide a lot of comfort and the points that are maybe not as comforting to our client. And it wasn't able to do that exactly. So that's a good example of how you still need to add your own critical thinking, and you still need to work with your associates and seniors to clarify. So in terms of the opportunities to get involved in AI at A&O Shearman, I mentioned before that you get a lot of training in AI tools. So when you join the firm, you get general training on AI and how you can what the different tools are and how you can use it. There are so many knowledge resources that are available that you can consult on each different type of tool. There are AI specialists or innovation leads who you can contact for more questions. And then depending on what seat you do, you can also get further training. So for example, in international debt capital markets, I had specific training on the tools that they use in the department and opportunities to ask any questions. I think one thing that makes A&O Shearman really unique is that you can also do a seat in the Markets Innovation Group. This is sometimes described by people who've done it as a tech startup. So it provides in-house legal advice to clients, and it's a really good opportunity if that is something that you're interested in. It is very client focused. You get lots of client interaction, doing pitches and presentations, and it's an opportunity to work across the firm because you're working with different departments to develop the tools that they need. And like Danielle mentioned earlier, because it's come out of securitization, you still do get to do some legal work through the securitization team and the derivatives team. So it's not like you're only doing the tech aspect, if that's something that concerns you. And then even if you don't do a seat in MIG, you can help develop and train the AI tools that are being used across the firm. So for example, in my team, trainees do something called a circle up, and that basically looks at prospectus and highlights different figures that the auditors are going to back up. It's very sort of time intensive. It takes about an hour, but it's very mundane, and you need to do it a couple times during your seat. Well, I think I've done it about 17 times during my seat. So I worked with the team to help develop a software that will automate that process. And so that's quite interesting because you can help develop the tools. And I think if we're looking forward into how the role of the trainee or the role of a lawyer will change, I think that a very useful skill is helping AI tools develop and sort of almost supervising the AI tools. Another thing that I did was in Contract Matrix, which we talked about earlier, you can compare different clauses across documents. So I helped feed those clauses into Contract Matrix so that we could have specific, what are called benches. So specific documents based on a theme, for example, a certain type of issuer. And then when you enter those benches, you can compare documents, similar documents across a theme. So I talked a little bit about how this will impact us as trainees and sort of develop the skills that we're expected to have. It also, like I said, saves you a lot of time so you can engage more with the legal concepts, and your training overall will be more critical than just doing the administrative tasks. I think that will help the jump from sort of trainee to associate as well, because you would already have a lot of practice in engaging with concepts critically. But it's important to know that we have to engage with AI in some shape or form. It's not going to go away. And so these are skills that firms are going to be looking for in applications, and it's something that will almost have to become second nature. So I think that was everything that I wanted to add, but please send through any questions that you have.
Thanks so much, Siobhan. I just wanted to add briefly as well, because obviously I'm conscious this audience group is probably getting ready for applications. And I suppose looking at AI and the ethical use of that within your applications is really important as well. So obviously both myself and Siobhan use AI every day. We've chatted about it here. So we would support applicants doing the same, but we would encourage you to do that in an ethical way. And what I mean by that is not just asking ChatGPT to do your whole application for you. it. So using it to your benefit, maybe in terms of spelling and grammar or structure, those kind of things, but not asking it to completely do the application. I think what's really important to remember when using AI is that it won't ever replace your own voice. And to do that, you have to feed into the information. So as Siobhan said, around prompts and getting really good prompts to suit your applications, I think is really important. So just in case that comes up in the questionnaire, I just wanted to kind of cut it off at the pass that you are able to use it in A&O Shearman applications, but we can spot if you've kind of put your whole application through it as well. So shall we move on to some questions?
Yep, totally. Thank you so much, both. Off the top of that, Danielle, there's a question about how someone asked, how can I use AI to get prepared for a training contract?
Prepare for a training contract. So if you have secured your place at that point, I think one thing that's really important is, I Siobhan has touched on it, in that like these skills are something that trainees are using all the time. So I think stuff around prompt engineering would be really good if you get a head start on that. So really developing your prompts. So we have core training and that for all new joiners, I believe now, but definitely for trainees. So there's like certain ways that we do it for Harvey. So we'll set out the context, the instructions, and then feed in the data, and then also feed it what format we want it in. I think there can be a bit of a perception that like AI is like completely taking away all of our work, but actually spending a lot of time on your prompts does take a significant amount of time. It means that the data you get back is better, but like you're not just flinging something in the way that you might to ChatGPT ask what you want for dinner. It's quite a structured approach to it. So I would say start with prompt engineering, and then again, it's just like a very good space to start in terms of finding styles for summarizing things as well. So like moving it maybe away from your TC, but for applications, if you're prepping for interviews and case studies, commercial awareness, all that kind of stuff, asking ChatGPT to summarize things for you can be really important as well. And again, that will become a skill when you join as a trainee too.
Thank you,
Anything
Danielle.
to add, Siobhan, that you think you could use AI for preparing for a trainee contract?
I would just agree with what you said about the prompts. Sometimes I feel like the way that my supervisor or my trainer speaks to me is the way that I need to speak to Harvey, in that I need to explain exactly what I want, sort of set it out really clearly. It is obviously generative, but it won't read your mind, so you do need to give very clear instructions. So the way that I think about it is, what would be the questions that I would ask if a person was telling me this, and then put those into ChatGPT to sort of,
You're okay, you're back now. You froze for a second, but you're good now.
Yeah, so basically, what would I expect someone to tell me, or what would I appreciate if someone explained to me?
Great, thank you both. And Danielle, kind of sticking with you, someone has asked, how has the developments of AI, especially at A&O Shearman, impacted the hiring process when looking for ideal candidates?
Yeah, so it hasn't impacted the process as such, in that we don't use AI within our processes at all in terms of application review. So every application is reviewed by a person. So we haven't used it within our review processes. But what we have done is, we, for like the last number of years, have been looking for technology skills, and within that now involves AI. So at kind of case study level, there is kind of AI elements, being up to date on AI and developments within that, or cases within AI as well, in terms of hallucinations and those kind of things, I think is really important. So it is a very core part of our assessment, but it's not involved in terms of any review processes, if that makes sense. So we are looking for people with strong technology and AI skills.
Great, thank you. And there's two sort of similar questions where they've asked you, Danielle, to elaborate sort of on how the firm will balance the ethical responsibilities against the use of AI and the regulatory and compliance risks.
Yeah, so in terms of the ethical use, I'm going to assume, but correct me if I'm wrong, that's in relation to the environmental impact of AI. So look, to be honest, we are just really encouraging our employees to use it ethically. So knowing what you're putting into it and being mindful of that. So in terms of not asking it very simple tasks, like being selective in what you ask it to do. So leaning back on that example of asking AI what to have for your dinner, that's not an appropriate thing to task Harvey with. So being purposeful in what you're asking it to do, I think, is really important. We do also have a large number of kind of environmental and sustainability processes within the firm as well that we had pre-AI and will continue to work on as well. In terms of compliance risk, I think Siobhan kind of mentioned it there in terms of keeping things anonymized as they go into Harvey, and in terms of regulatory, it's just keeping up to date. So as AI is developing, more and more rules and regulations are coming with that, and we just have to keep up to date with that as a firm.
Great. And someone has asked, how does A&O plan to enforce the use of AI firm-wide, as currently only a fourth of the firm is using the tool firm-wide?
I'm wondering where only a fourth of the firm came from. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but yeah, I think so. It's just encouraging it to use it. There is practice areas that are probably more pro using AI than others. And I think it's just really encouraging people to have a play around with it. So the business teams, although Harvey is like legal focused, the business teams do have access to it as well. But personally, as a business team member, I more lean on Copilot, which we didn't really focus on today, but only because it's just not an A&O Shearman only AI tool. So Copilot is the Microsoft AI tool that they kind of advertise as like your AI PA. So I use Copilot a lot. I suppose like a good example of kind of how as a team within HR we're rolling that out is each it's like I think it's every second week we do like an AI quick 20-minute stand-up meeting where people who've used AI that week and it's really like help them like reduce time or anything, they bring that idea to the group. So example being a couple of weeks ago I had a program finish, so I did like exit interviews with students to just like get their feedback on the program. So I asked AI to do up the questions for me. I obviously reviewed them, selected the questions that I wanted. I then met the students, took the notes, and then I took all those notes and fed it into Copilot and asked it to summarize it and then give me recommendations that I could then feed back to the partners. So what potentially would have taken me 2 to 3 hours previously, like a full morning, I was able to wrap up within 45 minutes, except for the interviews themselves, which took about 30 minutes each. But it's those kind of things that we bring to the meeting so then that other colleagues can kind of take that away and chat about. So, and it's similar then with the lawyers too, of just like sharing what they're using it for, best practice and that kind of thing. So they're kind of the ways that we're actively trying to roll it out. I don't think we're ever going to enforce it. It's not something that you have to kind of do a couple of hours of every week or anything like that. But technology is involved in our performance reviews process. So if you're actively using technology, bringing that to your performance review, especially as a trainee, is really important.
Amazing, thank you so much. And so there's sort of a question related to the experience and standing out in applications. Anika has asked what AI courses / certification / skills would be attractive to the firm when they look at a candidate. For example, they said AI prompting, AI prompt engineering, AI fundamentals, coding courses, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think doing all that stuff is really impressive and definitely would add to your application, but I wouldn't want to like sell anyone to have to go out and spend money on those kind of things to encourage you to get a training contract. I think just actively using it and developing your skills. Podcasts are great. Like a lot of our MIG senior associates and partners do a lot of press work, so they'll have write-ups in various different medias and then also podcasts and things like that as well. So I think even just keeping up to date in that kind of way would be really beneficial rather than having to go out and pay for courses. But also ChatGPT is your friend. Like it will help you learn more about AI, so use that to your advantage as well.
Great, and kind of I think mirroring this question to Siobhan, did you use any? Did you have any of that sort of related experience, or did you showcase AI skills or anything like that in your applications to the firm?
I think Siobhan just dropped off there I think she's having
No
issues.
worries.
She's getting things coming in and out. Oh, she's back. Siobhan, are you able to take that one? Sorry.
Yes, sorry. Could you please repeat the question because my Zoom crashed?
Yeah, no worries. So kind of turning that question to you, did you have any specific AI skills or experience that they use when you apply into the firm?
I think one of the things that's really helpful is having an overview of the AI tools and their potential. Like I mentioned, sometimes it's hard to understand exactly what you would use the tools for. So yeah, attending things like this, or looking at what firms advertise on their website is really important to just have an understanding, but also trying to integrate that in interview questions or in application questions, and just a couple comments here and there about how you would use AI or tools that you would use are really helpful. I can see in the comments some people have talked about like specific tools in different contexts. So yeah, that sort of awareness is really important, because I don't think that the firm specifically expects you to know anything or to have used these tools before, but just generally mentioning that you are comfortable with AI just shows that you're really forward thinking, because it is something that's going to be considered in the years to come.
Yeah, I think where AI is, like, for people applying now and potentially joining us in 2 to 3 years, it will have changed massively. So often what we're looking for within those questions is like the openness and willingness to learn. So like, even taking Siobhan, for example, if she applied 2 or 3 years ago, like, we probably didn't have Harvey like in the same way that we do now. So even if it was being rolled out in terms of like tests and pilots, it's not within the form that we have it now. So it's just like that willingness to learn and being open and adaptable to the change that I think we're often looking for, especially at assessment centre stage.
Definitely agree. And sticking with you, Siobhan, someone has asked you, have you experienced any issues with AI hallucinations in the usage of Harvey or Copilot? And are there any ways in which you can report like errors or issues in order to improve the models?
Yeah, so I think one of the great things about the MIG team and the people working on the AI tools is that they are really open to conversation. So you can reach out to them and say that you want to get involved in testing tools, but you can also just reach out and give feedback. I think what's really important with, like I said earlier, with things like Harvey, is still checking the outputs. So not necessarily hallucinations, but sometimes it will just muddle up a few words here and there, and you do still need to read it and make sure that it's what you intend. We have been trained to be really careful with the use of case law, because all AI tools tend to hallucinate, and if you try and compensate for proper research in a library, then it can generate case law that doesn't really exist. So although it's a constant process and Harvey's constantly being developed and refined, it is still important to check everything that it is outputting. I haven't had major issues with like case law or anything, but I have had a couple instances where it doesn't quite understand what I'm trying to say, which might be because my prompt wasn't like specific enough. But yeah, it's not something that you can just send out to clients or your supervisor without checking.
Great, thank you. And there's sort of another trainee related question from Katie, which she asked, do you think that by using AI, trainees are losing the opportunity to develop the skills gained by undertaking the tasks which AI has replaced? Or perhaps is it the opposite?
Well, I think that what I mentioned earlier with the auditor circle up, that's not really a task that you learn a lot from. It's just sort of an administrative task that needs to be done, and you can still gain the understanding. So you can still be trained on, oh, this is why we have a circle up, and you still need to double check the output of Harvey, but you don't necessarily need to do the task to understand it, because it is literally highlighting sort of figures in a document and referencing the document from last year and making sure the same figures are highlighted. So it doesn't actually require that much critical thinking. So I think as a trainee, there are obviously a lot of administrative tasks involved, and some of them are not necessarily there because you learn a lot from them, but they're just there because they need to be done. And I think that's where AI can really help in automating the tasks that you're not learning a lot from. And then the tasks that you are, like I explained, reviewing legal opinions or reviewing the letters from auditors, those kind of tasks, I don't think AI is like close to being able to replicate. So you can still learn a lot and probably develop more critical skills that way.
Perfect, thank you. And another question which I think I can pose to both of you is, Does A&O Shearman offer AI training sessions for trainees who aren't as well versed in using these AI tools, and will trainees be assessed on the effective use of AI?
Oh, you're just on mute, Siobhan. Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I mentioned earlier about that when you join the firm, you have to do AI training. So that's mandatory for everybody, which is really helpful to just understand the tools, but you also have to use them. So we get training on prompt engineering. And then as well as that, you do get sort of top-up training sessions as you go on. So it's not, there's a lot of support there. And then obviously if you need a little bit more assistance, there are lots of resources where you can sit down with like a member of the MIG team and go through them. So yeah, I think there's almost there's as much as you want to read, there's almost too much, because there's so many resources and guides and things available on our intranet.
Yeah, there's like anytime we have a rollout. So I actually was on the co-pilot pilot. So we did really intensive training, but then even when it came kind of a little bit more firm wide, there was more training, and then they'll do like practice area groups as well. So like how it can be used for business teams versus how it can be used in disputes or things like that as well. So they'll do kind of more niche ones. And then there is, as Siobhan mentioned, like a massive amount of resources on our intranet. So they have what they refer to as like the innovation factory, I think. So you can go on, and there's actually helpfully loads of videos there as well. So you can like watch the video while you do it as well. So yeah, there's loads of resources if anyone isn't fully aware. And even then, if you think you've been using AI for a year, but a colleague comes along and says, oh, I've actually done this, if you want to refresh and like learn how it's like developed, there's loads of opportunities to do that as well.
Great, thank you both. And sort of a recruitment related question is, someone has asked, how can applicants demonstrate awareness of AI in law in their applications and interviews in a way that adds value without appearing over reliant on it?
I think in terms of like, so if we take your written application forms as an example, events like this is a really good indicator that you're interested, and any other events that you attend, and things like that. If you, because I know a lot of people now are writing dissertations and stuff like that, if you are focusing that on AI, that's worth mentioning within your application form as well. Moving on to the video element of the application. So you have 2 video questions and you have 2 minutes to answer each. If you're particularly motivated by our developments within AI, that's worth mentioning within your first question, which is, why do you want to be a commercial lawyer at A&O Shearman, and what are the skills you think that are needed to excel in that? So you can tie it into that question as well. So they're kind of the main ways I think that you can express an interest. In terms of using it within your application, so if you've used it to like format, or you've put your answer to ChatGPT to like review and things like that, I'd be conscious of the language. So I'm sure we're all very aware of like there is kind of ChatGPT-esque language or AI-esque language. So just make sure, as we mentioned, that your prompts are kind of, you know, working in your benefit, that's reflecting your style and things like that. So I would really encourage students to like do your application form yourself first, and then ask your AI tool to review, rather than just asking the AI to complete it for you.
Great, and kind of off the top of that, because I see quite a lot of questions related to this, a lot of people have asked, are sessions like these or any other A&O Shearman or AI related sessions useful to mention in the application? And if yes, like how much should they be mentioned?
Yeah, so within our written application forms in particular, we would really encourage you to mention any kind of insight days or events, open days, all that kind of stuff that you've attended. I think it can be, because we like have it listed as like work experience, but we often refer to it as like life experience, or basically anything that's added to your skills. It is worth mentioning, but maybe group them together. So if you're someone who's attended a lot of sessions like this or a lot of open days, maybe putting them into the one box and then describing the skills that you've gained from them all, rather than listing each event that you attended and giving us a whole kind of blurb on that. We do ask for detail within our application forms. I did notice someone asked if we prefer bullet points or not. As an early careers recruitment team, we prefer long form answers, so paragraphs. But we are also assessing your judgment on the content. So I would say err on the side of clear and concise. Like, although we want detail, we don't want kind of, you know, 5 or 6 paragraphs on attending an event like this. I think 1 or 2 lines summarizing, or maybe a little bit more than 1 and 2, but like a short blurb summarizing what you've learned, the skills you gained, and the insight you gained is perfect, rather than giving us a kind of an essay style answer on it. Does that answer the question?
Yep, I think so. And I think I saw an interesting question about what are the limitations of Harvey?
I think I talked about this a little bit earlier, where I said, like, I don't think Harvey can really replicate the legal analysis. So, for example, when I put a legal opinion in and I tried to understand like the meaning of a clause and whether it was providing enough protection or not enough protection, I still needed to go to my supervisor and ask that question, because I think one of the things that Harvey can't replicate is really the expertise or the experience of more senior people in the team. So the answer that my supervisor gave me was based on other examples that he has seen in the market. And he was like, based on, this other opinion that I got 3 years ago from this person, I think that this provides enough protection for our client. So that kind of expertise, obviously Harvey doesn't know that because I haven't plugged in all the potential legal opinions that we've received. But that's something that, maybe he would have picked up on it if I had supplied those. But I think that sort of expertise and that experience, it can't really replicate because it's just limited to almost what you know or what you're putting in. So I think that's like just a point about generally like AI is as good as like the prompts and the information that you're giving it. And so sometimes it's quite difficult to get to flag things that you might not have considered or things that you might not know, because it doesn't know that either. And I think, again, it's very good for summarizing information or presenting it in a certain way, but it's not really able to raise new points or things that like my supervisor is able to do, for example.
Thank you. And off the top of that, and kind of I think it'll be a nice way to close off, is someone has asked what are the skills or the qualities that AI cannot replace from a human?
I think it's this is a personal opinion now, not firm opinion, but I think it's that emotional intelligence piece. So like when we taking, and just because it's my own experience, recruitment, for example, like when we're interviewing people, like emotional intelligence is obviously a massive part of that. I think often when people are thinking about lawyers, you can sometimes forget that at the end of the day, it's a very client-facing service. And a lot of the time when clients are coming to us, they're coming to us because they're stressed and they have a problem and something has gone wrong. So that emotional intelligence is a massive part of that. And that's something that we assess through our recruitment process. And I'm just not sure that an AI model is ever going to be able to pick that up in the same way that very skilled, trained interviewers have, and like based off experience, and they know what works in the firm and all that kind of stuff. So I do think it is that human element that AI probably won't ever truly replace. I don't know if Siobhan, you agree, or if you have anything else to add.
No, I agree. I think law's an incredibly social industry, and the clients have access to AI tools as well, and they could probably throw in a question there, but they're not looking for that. I think, that's that emotional element of like understanding their problems and also understanding risk. So AI can, say, yes, this is an absolutely terrible clause and you can't accept it. But then actually a lawyer might say, based on our experience, this isn't a risk that's going to materialize, so you could probably accept it. So I think I've done very transactional seats, so they've often been about the commercial objective, which is to like get the deal done, and not necessarily, combative and sort of arguing. You're trying to negotiate and you're trying to find a common ground. And I don't know if AI would be as good as like reaching those negotiations, because it doesn't necessarily have a balance in the same way that like a lawyer would.
Definitely. Thank you so much, both. I think it's a good time to wrap up and see what everyone has taken out of this session. So I'm just going to quickly run a final poll on the screen for the attendees to answer. So that should be on your screen now. So what's your key takeaway from today? If you could please answer that question on the screen. And while you do that, I'm just going to mention before you go, just another reminder to attendees that we'll be sending out a link containing the recorded session. So please keep an eye out for that. And there'll also be a survey popping up once this masterclass has ended. So please do fill that in to let us know how you enjoyed today and what other topics you would like to see us cover in the future. Also remember to check out Law Careers Net Live, the conferences where A&O Shearman will be attending the London event. And please apply early as we're making offers on a rolling basis. And again, more info will be available in the follow-up email to this session. I see a lot of you have voted on the poll. Thank you for that. I'm just going to go ahead and share the results. Thank you. I'm really glad to see what you've learned from this session. And thank you very much once again to our panelists for this excellent session and for attending today. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you.